Okay. And I have to set the game capture so that it actually captures the game. There we go. What is this? Is my game capture broken? Why is it not working all of a sudden? This happened yesterday with the window capture. But I thought that was just because of the other thing I was using. Now it's not working with Kingdom Hearts 3. Okay. Finally, thank you. Alright. So today's stream is gonna be extra short and yeah, no face cam today. Mainly here just to fulfill I said I was gonna show up every day, and I want to stay dedicated to that. So even if I have to kind of cheat by doing a very, like, shrimpy stream. I streamed for almost 2 hours yesterday, so that was a pretty good, sizable one. I guess they can't all be winners, though, so this one's gonna be significantly shorter and less robust. But yeah, I got some cool stuff I want to show off. There's a mod that allows you to play as Mickey in this game. It's not one of those Project Equinox style play through the entire game with the character things, but it's cool. And I felt like I could use my, this Kingdom Hearts 2 mod pack that I've put together to show that off, and also show off this little boss rush mode that the Olympus Coliseum has. So that ought to be fun. Apparently, Sony misread the whole Morbius meme and thought that it meant people actually liked it, so they re-released it, and it flopped again. I feel like that's the ultimate culmination of the Morbius meme. Just the absolute high note. The company fell for the meme. The brand got owned. It cost them $1 billion to put the movie back in theaters, and no one actually went to go see it. People stay dedicated to the joke. Like, the whole joke is that we pretended like it was really good, and we liked it. It's not like The Amazing Spider-Man, where, despite it being flawed, people actually like it. Like, no, we successfully tricked Sony into losing millions, so that's a LMAO moment. Oh, okay, completely random note I want to add. Just because you hear me, like, talk negatively about a franchise doesn't mean I'm actively rooting for its downfall. Like, Pokemon's the most obvious example, because I talk all the time about how the franchise is lost. I almost got into it and the franchise completely lost my interest with the most recent generations. I'm not actively rooting on its downfall. Matter of fact, I got pretty... I was intrigued by, Arceus Legends. But then I got unintrigued again by Scarlet and, how fast Scarlet and Violet seems to be, like, on the way. And one meme in particular that, like, really cemented me not... doubling down on not really caring about the franchise, and I swear I'm gonna lay off talking about Pokemon for a long time after this. I saw a meme that was like the one guy posing next to a tombstone. I think it was like an actor posing next to a tombstone of their dead character on a TV show. But yeah, the actor posing was Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and the tombstone was Pokemon Arceus. And it's like, oh great, they're using the Pokemon game that I actually kind of liked, or kind of seemed interested, that I was kind of interested in. They're using the one that I'm not interested in to dunk on the one that I actually was interested in. That's nice. That's great. And the tweet had like 10,000 likes, so that's nice. Glad to see where this community's at in terms of the perception of things. So yeah, just not a franchise I care for or want to get into, not a community I care for. But that doesn't mean I'm rooting for it to fail. And if I was, one, that would be incredibly petty and spiteful, and two, that would be really dumb, because, like, Pokemon fans are the most dedicated human beings on planet Earth. Like, they are the most dedicated, loyal fan base to Game Freak. Like, the series has, like, a very loud minority of detractors. Like, it's 5 people, but those 5 people are extremely loud about it. And every other human being on the planet is, like, insanely supportive of the Pokemon franchise. Like, think about the love someone has for their pet, and apply that to a video game franchise, and that's how people treat Pokemon. So yeah, if it's a franchise that you're rooting on the downfall for, you're betting on a losing game. Or, well, you're betting against a winning game, I guess. So yeah, just like, whatever, have your fun. It's just not a franchise that I personally care for at all anymore. Which is why I'm not gonna constantly talk about it. Like, I'm just... After this stream, I'm just gonna lay off for a while. At least until, like, if some Pokemon news happens that's so big that I literally can't ignore it comes out, then yeah, I kind of have to talk about it, but other than that, I'm good. Because I realize that when you're watching someone stream, and they will not shut up about a thing they dislike, it's like, I hear your criticisms. I support your right to complain about this thing, but for the love of God, please move on. And yeah, I think I've reached that point with Pokemon where it's like, okay, dude, move on. And like, yeah. I saw a great tweet about that. Someone was talking about the whole Sonic Frontier situation, and it was making a point about momentum-based gameplay versus the very snappy-feeling gameplay, like jumping on a grind rail and your momentum carrying over, versus like jumping on a grind rail with no momentum and suddenly gaining speed. And like, okay, I get the point that momentum-based gameplay can be more like interesting and dynamic for a game like that. I think that like no matter what, a Sonic open world game should just be like, it should ultimately feel like a giant playground for like movement. Like if that game has good movement and it feels good to traverse around the world, then I feel like it's an automatic winner. But we'll see if it ends up being like that, you know. But yeah, someone in what I believe was an obnoxious way, because they did the thing where they found out who the dev team was, or not even the dev team. They found out who the individual directing the momentum-based gameplay games were, versus who the more like snappy feeling games were made by. and they immediately went into the whole, this is what a game made by this person feels like versus a game not made by this person. And the quote retweet reply to that, which ratioed them out of the wazoo, which, like, one of the instances where I'm actually cool with the quote retweet ratio, because it was very well put and warranted, since the original tweet had, like, around 1,000 or so likes, so, and, like, the quote retweet got, like, 10,000 likes. I know that's, like, a dumb metric to judge things by, but I think it does, like, sort of illustrate a point. But the point they made, was that players learning who the developers or directors behind a series is like a freaking plague on gaming discourse. Because that just becomes a talking point that people harp on so much. Like, it just becomes the number one thing that people who dislike a certain style of game will talk about, like, what team made it, what director made it. And it's like, okay, I get your criticisms. If they're valid, you know? But, uh-oh. The audio from my iPad has been on this whole time, whoops. But if you hyperfixate on a dev team, why is this taking so long? It's been like, my god, it's been so long. It's still just loading. But if you hyper-focus on the dev team, or like, and like, the developers, rather than focusing in on the actual criticisms made towards them, it'll feel more like you have a weird vendetta against some strangers who made a video game you don't like, than it does that you're, like, invested in, like, the artwork. Like, as much as I like Mahler, the criticism channel guy, I do think he has the tendency to focus on, like, the director, behind the film a bit too much. This was especially true of the whole Last Jedi era. As much as I completely agree with his criticisms, he would rely on, like, taking shots at Rian Johnson a bit too much. And it's like, regardless of who made the thing, I think what criticisms are being levied are more important than who made the thing you're criticizing. Because I don't care if it's a person who makes things I generally like, or a person who makes things I generally dislike. If they make a thing, like, I'm gonna focus on the merit of the thing itself. Like, for instance, Rian Johnson also directed Ozymandias, which is, like, one of my favorite episodes of television ever. It's a really good Breaking Bad episode that he was behind. And I also really like Knives Out, but Rian Johnson also directed The Last Jedi, which I dislike a lot. So, it's not about the man Rian Johnson to me, it's about what the thing he put out, and not liking that. I don't blame him personally for creating, like, that, and that's another thing, it makes it feel weirdly personal, when you focus so much of your criticism on this dev team, this director, blah blah blah. It feels less like you're trying to make critical and objective criticisms, and more like you just have an axe to grind. And a lot of the time, I really do feel like that is the case, because a lot of these people will have beef with a certain segment of a community, like Star Wars fans who really didn't like The Last Jedi, which I'm kind of in that camp, and like Kingdom Hearts fans who don't like the newer installments as much. Like, a lot of them will have an axe to grind, because they'll, at some point, I guess, they spoke their mind about what they thought, and they received certain amounts of backlash, and granted, maybe people got overly defensive and the backlash was unreasonable. I know that's definitely the case for Kingdom Hearts and Star Wars, because the fans of both series can be very, like, overly defensive and passionate about it. But that doesn't change the fact that if you're making if you're focusing too much on the creative heads behind something, or making very hyperbolic, overblown criticisms, it doesn't change the fact that, like, it's hard to listen to you or take you seriously if you do that. That doesn't apply as much to Mahler, since he does a pretty good job of, despite whatever his personal feelings may be, he does a good job of keeping his criticisms pretty objective, but I can't say the same for a lot of the people who criticize this series, for instance. Trying to find anything to talk about while this incredibly long... Like, I wanted to actually, like, play the game. The reason why I loaded this up was to make the animation of going into... Because I'm gonna have to load up this mod menu no matter what anyway. So I wanted to make it quick by, like, loading it up here before I went into the actual Coliseum. But it's like, it's taking... It's been 16 minutes. This has been loading for 16 minutes. For what reason is it loading for that long? Oh my god. Like, this whole stream so far has just been the animation of this loading in. How long is this gonna take? Like, I've been doing a pretty good job of filling the dead air so far, but like, at some point this needs to load. This whole video can't just be me talking about Morbius and Pokemon Twitter and people hyper-focusing on developers and directors. Like, other stuff needs to happen, please. Bruh. Other stuff isn't going to happen, is it? I genuinely don't know what else to add. I was hoping more commentary material would come from, you know, gameplay. The thing I came here to do. But I guess this is just like a one-man podcast now, where I talk about things that come to mind while Sora does this animation. Oh, here's a rant topic. You know that one guy on the podcast who's just the worst? Let me break down the dynamic, alright? Your favorite YouTuber decides, hey, I want to do a podcast. People like hearing me and my friends talk about things. Why don't we, you know, like, and we all the time will just have like these like long talks on Discord while we're playing games and stuff. And I feel like my audience would like that, those conversations. And so they just go ahead and start a podcast. All well and good, except here's the thing. The actual YouTuber who you like, who started the podcast, who you came there for, it's only about, I'd say, 10 to 20% them talking. The majority of it will be their friends, which, okay, I guess as long as their friends have like entertaining personalities or they're good conversationalist, you know, that type of stuff. Except, out of that other 80 to 90% of commentary coming from your favorite YouTuber's friends, 60% of it will be dominated by that one friend of theirs, who's just, to put it lightly, kind of the worst. Whatever issue they're talking about, whatever thing they, are discussing, they will be the loudest, they will have the most opinions about it, and they will talk the most about it. And they don't have anything good to say. Like, I know I'm a bit biased because I'm me, but I think I generally tend to have some pretty fair and balanced takes when it comes to things. Like, I don't pretend to be without my biases, but I think I try to at least, examine things fairly. Not this person. This person, and every podcast started by a popular YouTuber has this person, except for, the Super Mega podcast, because that's just Matt and Ryan, and they're both pretty level-headed. Every single podcast, with that exception, it's just this one guy constantly going off, and he has the worst takes consistently. Every single take he has, like, imagine what the worst takeaway you could have from a situation is. He always somehow consistently has it. Like, just miraculously, without fail. He's so loud about it, he's so abrasive about it, and he's so, like, arrogant and aggressive with his, like, wrongness. Like, this guy is always stirring up some type of crap, and then they will intentionally do things to stir up, like, as much garbage and just the worst vitriolic, toxic discourse you can imagine. And then when that inevitably comes back to bite them and people are like, hey, I don't like this guy or anything he says, they act like incredulous. Like, why could anyone possibly dislike me or think I'm an annoying contrarian? I only have the most fair and balanced takes that aren't at all very reactionary and, that aren't, like, I don't have bad takes. I just have the most, like, aggressive, bizarre viewpoint on everything that you've ever heard in your life. And this guy, they dominate so much of the conversation. Like 60% of the whole podcast is just them immediately jumping in on everything with the worst rant you've heard in your life. And your favorite YouTuber, meanwhile, will be sitting in the background like, Or, like, worse, they'll be completely silent while this person just goes off on this just awful tangent. And it's like, God, why? I've counted 3 different podcasts started by YouTubers, who I like, that follow this exact trend. Like, why? Why? Why do they always have to invite that guy? But I'll tell you what, I'd rather listen to that guy give, like, every worst take they've ever had than have to wait through this more. Jeez. Oh my god. Almost a half hour of me sitting around waiting and not doing the thing I said I'd do. I think at the half hour mark, I should, this is like a sunken cost fallacy. At the half hour mark, I think I should cut my losses, exit the game, accept defeat, and then come back tomorrow. Because technically I am fulfilling my promise of, streaming every day in June. I am streaming right now. I'm putting on my best one-man podcast. Am I that guy? Like, since I'm the only one here, am I by default that one guy? I like to imagine that by default I'd be the YouTuber who you actually came to the podcast to listen to. But I guess that's for you all to decide. You all, the 15 people who watch my videos consistently. To the 15 people who watch my videos consistently, you want anything from the gas station? What else? Oh, I have a fun idea. What if we took that one guy from each YouTuber podcast and, like, made a podcast out of them? We could call it, like, Bottom of the Barrel or something like that. And we see out of that one guy, out of a whole group consisting of that one guy, which one of them is the most that one guy? Like, where do all of them draw the line where they're like, whoa, I may be the annoying one of the friend group, but I'm not that annoying. I need to reel it back a second. Like, which one is the most brazenly, which one is the most, like, unashamed, like, shamelessly annoying, and which ones have, like, actual boundaries and limits? Or would they all, like, perpetually try to outdo each other? Like, no, I have the worst take. No, I have the worst take on this. No, actually, I have the worst take. And they'd all just aggressively cut off each other and speak over one another. Just really trying to get the last... Or do you think they'd get along swimmingly? Like, they'd all just, like... They'd all agree, have a great time. What if it would be like a circle jerk? Like, all of them just basking in like this rotation of validation. Like they all agree on everything. And they all have like the worst viewpoints and they all agree on them. And this whole podcast is just them going around in circles saying the dumbest things you've heard in your life, and then all of them agreeing with one another. And talking about how they're so right and everyone who disagrees with them is so stupid. Oh god, that would be the worst. And now that I'm saying it, I know a YouTube channel that fits that exact description. It's not a podcast, but it might as well be with their content format. Without giving away exactly who I'm talking about, it's like 4 dudes who, to varying degrees, are all that guy from the podcast. Like, they've all... Oh my god, there's like a list you could check off. Has the worst takes, is overly aggressive, constantly riles up online arguments, is a complete contrarian. Did I say that already? Has said the N-word on camera at some point for, like, no discernible reason, just cause. Has the worst taste imaginable. Always has some hot take they want to drop. Lives for conflict, but doesn't like, being a pariah, even though they make themselves out to be a pariah in all of their interactions. Just like a bizarre antisocial socialite. And all of the people on this YouTube channel... Okay, well... Only one of them have done the, has said the N-word for no reason thing. The other 3 are pretty good about not doing that, but... To varying degrees, all 4 of them fit this description. Oh, having an awful relationship with the viewers. Talking down to the audience and treating them like crap is something that, that one guy consistently does. Like, bringing out the worst in your audience, and then when you cultivate an audience of, like, obnoxious people... Like, basically, if you're constantly obnoxious, people who don't like obnoxious content will leave, and the people who stay behind are gonna be the people who like that type of thing. And, you know, birds of a feather, all that. But sometimes, I even feel bad for the members of these communities, considering the way that the content creators will talk about them. Like, they honestly see their audience as a resource to exploit. Just a piggy bank to pull from. However they can milk them, they will. It's like, I get it, content creators gotta take a living. You gotta take that annoying 2-minute ad block to pay the bills, I get it. You gotta throw in those 5, make sure each minute, each episode is stretched out to 10 minutes with the maximum 5 ad blocks. I understand. I get how it is. I get the hustle. You know, nobody likes living in poverty, I get it. I'm not gonna accuse anyone of being a sellout, but for the love of God, shut up about it. Do what you have to do to make a living on this platform. But please learn to shut up about it sometimes. I don't want to constantly hear about all the different grimy little techniques you have to squeeze as much money out of your audience as possible. Like, at a certain point, I'm like, okay, I get it. Please stop. Like, if they were a minimum wage, like, barista or something, and they were telling me all the techniques that they use to, get customers to tip them as much as possible, I'd be like, okay, yeah. Make the system work for you. I get it. But considering that, like, in their position, they're fortunate. Like, I don't make money off of this. I do this as a hobby. In their position, they're lucky. They're very lucky and privileged to be able to make money off of this. At all. And it's like, I get it. Do what you have to do to make the money off of this behind the scenes. Don't put it so, like... Don't be so forthcoming about it that it's, like, all you talk about. I shouldn't be able to identify 3 different instances of you talking about ways that you're trying to maximize your profit for content. In, like, every single video you put out. Like, eventually, just, like, lay off. Find a different topic to talk about. I've bounced between, like, 8 different topics in this 1/2 hour. I think you can afford to go 2 seconds without talking about different techniques you use to milk your audience for cash. And after a while, that's what it feels like. Like, honestly, I get that you're not doing anything that any other YouTuber isn't. But something about the very grimy way you talk about it, like you're a con man and your audience is a bunch of suckers, something about that that rubs me the wrong way. Like, it always feels like it's something you're doing to trick the audience, like game them. And it's not people who are on the bottom rung, who have small channels who are trying to like exploit whatever they can to get ahead, to make sure they actually meet ends meet. It's always the people who are well off, have expendable income, people who are doing just fine, and that gives me the impression that they're not just trying to meet ends meet, they're trying to constantly, like, expand and, like, you know, expand their capital. It's like, okay, bro, like at a certain point, I get the hustle, I get people need money to live, and also because it's nice being able to afford things and having expendable income. I'm not mad at anyone for being wealthy and successful. That's cool. It's just that when you're wealthy and successful and you constantly talk about different ways you're gonna milk your audience dry and different ways you're gonna farm content and make that ad revenue and Patreon money and donations and stuff, it's like, okay, I get it. You're a very successful content creator. You're a very good internet funny man. You're making a nice living off of this, I understand. That's cool. I have no problem with the people I watch having money and being successful. Please shut up about it. Like, at a certain point, any topic you talk about constantly gets old, and if the topic already has a sort of grimy feeling to it by the way that you talk about it, that it's extra bad. Like, it would be one thing if it's like, hey, I don't know, I'm funding this orphanage, which is why I'm constantly finding ways to get more money. It would be like, okay. But no, it's just like, for your pockets. Which, again, it's cool to make money, just, man, give it a rest with talking about it every once in a while. And on another topic, I'm so glad YouTube, a few years ago, or well, God, it's more than a few years ago at this point, many years back, YouTube made it a rule that YouTubers have to disclose that a video is, advertised. Because some makeup YouTubers were subtly sneaking ads in and just not telling their audience it was an ad. Just like, oh, I just happen to be using this product that you can buy here. So YouTube made it so that you had to disclose that with a little, this video includes advertisements thing. And I'm so glad they did that. One, to stop the scummy makeup YouTubers from pulling that off. And two, because YouTubers love to slap you and, like, hit you upside the head with these advertisements, man. Like, they try to make it as, like, unexpected, like this just fast, like, here's an ad! Like, just, they try to jump scare you with ads. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it, you need to do this to make money. But, like, why do you have to, like, try to blindside me with it? Like, it feels like they're, like, just trying to get you. Like, it'll just come, there's be no sort of transition into it. Some YouTubers will do a thing where they're like, but first, here's a word from our sponsors. A lot of them will just go straight into, like, and by the way, here's an advertisement, and then just immediately do it. Or they'll just, like, start talking about something, and it will sound like they're about to, like, go into something else about the video, but then, surprise, it's an ad. Like, or they'll do an extra gross thing where they'll point out how, like, how pernicious, advertisement culture is, and then they'll use that as their freaking transition into their ad. And before the era, like, I like having that little tag there saying, this video contains ads, so that I can just know, okay, at some point, this video will abruptly, very abruptly, smash cut to an advertisement. I just know it's coming, so they can't, like, jump scare me with it. Like, is that the secret meta? Because these types of content creators who don't shut up about monetization are always talking about, like, different content meta. I'm thinking that has to be the meta, right? Like, jump scare your audience with the ads. My cat is clawing at the door. I think I'm soft-locked. Like, I think the game is soft-locked at this point. Has it been a half hour yet? If it's been a half hour, I'm just gonna call it quits. Accept defeat. I went live today. I should have put this on the just talking category, because no Kingdom Hearts 3 was played. But yeah, thanks for, wait. Let me actually make sure that a half hour has passed. Because I feel like a half hour of waiting for something to load is long enough. As soon as Streamlabs decides to actually load, come on. 36 minutes! It has been 10 minutes since the last time I checked how long it's been. I have 2 viewers. Not counting me watching this on my iPad. I use my iPad as a second monitor and watch the stream there. 1, to make sure that my performance is going well and that I'm not skipping frames. And 2, in order to look at the chat, because when games are in full screen mode, I can't see the chat. So if you subtract 1 viewer, that's how many people are actually watching. It says I have 2 viewers. So to the one guy, one person of undisclosed pronouns who decided to come here and watch my freaking podcast, cause no gameplay happened, so this was basically a podcast. Thank you for sticking it out. I will be live tomorrow, and hopefully some actual gameplay will happen. I'm gonna go back to my Terra playthrough of this game. So yeah, expect actual Kingdom Hearts 3 gameplay tomorrow. But thanks for showing up to my surprise podcast. See you tomorrow.